The House Energy Committee and Technology will come to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Chair Scott.
Present.
Representatives Andrews.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Whitsitt. Neely.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Churches.
Present.
Hill.
Here.
McDonald.
Present.
McFall.
Here.
Wenzel.
Here.
Outman.
Here.
Aragona.
Here.
Bagol.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Schmaltz.
Here.
Madam Clerk, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Andrews makes a motion to adopt the minutes from the October 11th, 2023 meeting with no objections. All right, so today we're taking testimony on packages of bills, House Bill 5120, 5121, 5122, and 5123. We took testimony on these bills last week as well. All right, and so we're going to be calling up people to the desk to give their testimony. I have to say, we are going to have a hard 2-minute limit because we have a lot of testimony. I want to try to get through it, and then we also have amendments, so we need to really stick to the 2 minutes. I'm going to have to be very strict with that. So I will ask you to stop, and when I ask you to stop, you need to stop. Thank you. I want to call up first Mark Fodsdick from the Chokacha Township Supervisor. Welcome, thank you. And if you could please press the red button, appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Scott, distinguished members of the committee. My name's Mark Fosdick. I'm the supervisor in Cohocton Township, Livingston County, and I'm opposed to this legislation because it takes away basically local control. There's several issues I have with the bills. One of the main issues is Section 225(1)N talks about the developer having to mitigate or minimize radio interference or interference with TV signals. Developers have said that's not an issue. Then all of a sudden, this bill, this language comes into this bill. So I'm wondering what's going on. Is there going to be interference? People are not going to be able to watch their TVs or listen to the radio in their homes because of these large-scale solar developments. There's issues with the screening. There is no screening. Decommissioning is one of the biggest concerns. If the company goes bankrupt, we know if it's a bond, letter of credit, they disappear. Just look at what happened in the city of Detroit with all that. There has to be more teeth put into this legislation if it's going to move forward. The other issue is drainage. A lot of the farm fields are tiled. Drain will cause the tiles break, it'll cause flooding. And finally, I think you're overburdening the rural communities to unfairly shoulder the renewable energy resources. Without more thought, communication with local governments, you'll be causing hard feelings which will ultimately undermine all the energy goals that we're trying to establish in this state. And with that, I'll end, but thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, I'll call up Deborah Hopkins from White River Township, who's in opposition of the bill. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Do I push the red button? Yes. Oh. Okay, is that better? All right, thank you. My name is Deborah Hopkinson, and I live in White River Township, Muskegon County. I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I'm here today speaking for a group of people you don't normally hear from. Our community offers robust bipartisan support for renewable energy, but also for protecting our community via maintaining local control. White River Township is a Lake Michigan coastal community with a beautiful mix of beaches, woodlands, and family farms of all sizes. We're less than half the size of a typical Michigan township. And right now, we're locked in a battle for our community's survival. Our township board hired a professional zoning consultant to help them write a comprehensive zoning ordinance that would welcome renewables into our community. But a solar developer applied to build a 1,700-acre array in the dead center of our 10,000-acre community. This would take up 50% of the green space in our township. So when we said, well, we welcome solar, but please not so much, they sued us. So we've read HB 5120 and 23, and we don't see any protections for Michigan communities. How will the MPSC make a determination of benefits to each community in the state? The rule on that is vague, and there are no criteria for determining those benefits. Our township already tried to get help from another state agency, Eagle, to help us clean up a 1,300-acre toxic waste site left behind by DuPont Chemical. They failed us spectacularly, and we're now working with the EPA. Our township is a glaring example of irresponsible siting of renewables. The state needs 2% of the ag land in the state. We learned last week in the hearing. Our ordinance offered 12.5% of our ag land. We want to integrate solar into our community, but we just can't let it completely dominate us.
I'm going to have you to wrap it up, please.
Oh.
Thank you.
Right this second?
Right this second.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your testimony. Next, I want to call up Herciana Richards from MML, who's in opposition of the bill.
Good morning, committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am Herciana Richards from the Michigan Municipal League. We are here today in opposition to House Bills 5120 through 5123 for two main reasons. For context, I've also passed along a letter to the committee. But we, of course, see this bill as a very significant overreach of local control on communities and their due right to plan and to zone for the outcomes and the goals of their communities. But also as cities and villages, which I think in ongoing conversation with the bill sponsor, we appreciate the distinctions that have been recognized. We see ourselves as distinctly different. Cities and villages are densely populated, dense with infrastructure, generally most built out areas of our state. And so when we look at the goals of this legislation and the context and the size of these utility scale projects, we don't see how we will accommodate them. And so we've said throughout this process, we would like to see ourselves exempt. We've given context to that, support to that, showing the size of our communities, the makeup of our communities, and where a lot of these projects are already presently set. And when I say exemption, I in no means say that we want to resist any sort of development and growth in the deployment of renewable energy. We have plans and projects that we've worked in collaboration with utilities, independently of our municipal utilities and others throughout several years. And so we intend to keep in that direction. We as the league support sustainability. We would just like to see legislation that more responsibly and intentionally and realistically incorporates what our communities have to offer and work with the legislature and bill sponsors along the way with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Robert Stott from Montcalm County, who's in opposition of the bill. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name.
Thank you, Representative Scott, and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. I have already given you a handout that includes what I'm going to talk about, but I'll try to summarize it in the 2 minutes that I have this morning.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. My name, I'm a retired real estate development lawyer. My wife and I live in Grand Rapids, but we've had a cottage in Montcalm County for the last 20 years. It is for that reason, 3 years ago, we became involved in opposition to the Apex's project that they proposed for Montcalm County in 9 of our 20 townships. The question came up last week about how tall these wind turbines are. In Montcalm County, Apex is proposing to build turbines that are 677 feet tall. Now, by comparison, the tallest building in Detroit, or in Michigan, is in Detroit. It's the Renaissance, in the Marriott, the Renaissance in Detroit. That's 727 feet tall. These things are simply 50 feet shorter than the tallest building in Michigan. Now, envision, if you will, 60 or more of those in one single township. And I can give you an exact example of that. In Nottawa Township in Isabella County, Apex's project put 60 600-foot wind turbines in that one township. You have in the packet this picture. This is a picture from the west side of Coldwater Lake showing a portion of that project. In that picture, the closest turbine is over a mile away. You can see 12 or more turbines in this picture. If you actually stand out in the lake, you can see more than 24. Imagine what this looks like at night when they're flashing red lights on and off all night long. But the worst of it is this is what it looks like. If you look at how many turbines are in that township. 60 turbines, 1 township, 36 square miles. If you look at how much energy that produces, it's something, if you do the math, if you want to reproduce the energy that's in the Campbell coal plant, you'll need 26 townships in the state of Michigan to replace that one plant. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Next, we'll have up Donna Graham, who's in opposition of the bill from Clinton Company in Greens Bush Township. If you can come forward, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm not a well-educated scientist or biologist, but I do have common sense. We live in Greenbush Township in Clinton County. We own a family farm there. We are opposed vehemently to the overreach of the state government for taking control from our local communities on whether we do or do not want solar energy. I'm not opposed to solar energy, but I am opposed to the overreach and the mandate that we have to put it in our county and around our community. We are not serviced by Consumers Power or DTE. We are serviced by Homeworks Tri-County. They have solar energy and windmills around the state, but they also are partnering with Palisades Nuclear Energy. And for us to be forced to only have 2 choices in the state of Michigan and be forced to where those energy sources are to be placed, I'm totally opposed to it, and I hope that you will consider that.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, we'll have Sandra Tenehill representing her family. Welcome.
I'm Sandra, and this is Arius Tannehill. I'm a wife and mother of 3, and I live in the Thumb. Thank you for letting me address you. As citizens, we should not be begging our own government to preserve essential agriculture and rural land. Because of the unending greed of the renewables industries, we will soon find our entire countryside filled with these monstrosities. Our children and future generations will be the ones paying for this costly industry. These industrial materials are deemed and discarded as biohazardous materials, which most landfills can't take, yet we're expected to live and play next to them. We can use California, Texas, and many other countries as examples that have failed with the unreliable green energy that has resulted in blackouts and citizens that couldn't keep their lights on and their homes warm. This will only get worse as we will be dependent on Michigan's weather. Science and what other states and countries have experienced now, no differently. Let's learn from their mistakes. We can tell our kids how energy companies will be building acres and acres of solar panels, noisy inverters, toxic battery storage facilities, miles of access roads, metal fencing like prisons, transformers, overhead transmission lines, industrial substations, underground electrical cables next to their homes and where agricultural land is, which we once preserved. They will soon need to travel to see an unscathed landscape, which will no longer be pure Michigan. When the prescription for saving the environment is to destroy nature, then it's not the solution. This green agenda push that has citizens believing this is free energy because the sun shines and the wind blows is not going to save the planet. What's good is saving the planet if you ruin the lives of the people living here? We are not just collateral damage. We've invested our blood, sweat, tears, and money into our homes and our families. We elected our local officials and government to preserve this for us and the future generations. The Michigan Public Service Commission should not be the ones dictating the outcome of our communities. That should be determined by elected local officials and our residents. When you take that control away, it's manipulation, not freedom. I plead with you to vote no to these bills being presented.
Thank you.
Our essential land and future.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I'm sorry to cut you off. I really am. But thank you. I appreciate your comments. Next up, can we bring up Mike Brown, who's in opposition of the bill? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Mike Brown. I am from Conway Township in Livingston County. I am on their planning commission. I am also a proud member of the Detroit Carpenters Union, and I was a signatory contractor for over 20 years with the Carpenters Union out of Detroit. I am opposed to this because it takes away the rights of the people and their will to have what they want in their communities for themselves, not by somebody else dictating what they need. And when you talk about numbers with the farmers, Alyssa Slotkin is on the farm committee, and I believe we need to push to get farmers more subsidies so they don't have to put this on their land to make sure that their farm is viable. I have read many things about this being $40,000 to $50,000 an acre in subsidy money when you could give the farmer $1,000 to $1,500, which is what they are going to get from this, and save the taxpayers multiple millions or billions, if not trillions of dollars that our great-grandkids will not have to pay for. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comment. Next up, we'll have Sarah Porter from Fowlerville, who's in opposition of the bill.
Thank you. Sarah Porter, Conway Township also. I am asking for your opposition to the proposed bills. The fact that identical bills have been introduced in both the houses should raise the hair on the back of your necks and have you questioning why this is being pushed in such a haphazard way. Introducing a second set of bills in the Senate is an effort to accelerate this green energy experiment. These bills include setbacks, height, and sound measurement that do not protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the public as a whole. DTE itself uses what they call best practices that include 300 feet setbacks, heights of 15 feet, and sound of 45 dBA. It concerns me that the elected officials that are drafting these bills, which I assume are not considered experts in the field, are determining these critical components of how a utility-scale energy plant will be operated. Currently, non-participating landowners are chastised for wanting to protect their property and quality of life, but farmers are revered as trying to save the planet. Truthfully, they do not want to sell their property because they do not want neighbors like us impacting their way of life. I find that ironic with what this will do to non-participating landowners. These rushed efforts are like throwing darts at the problem and hoping for the best. Ultimately, these darts will land in the backs of Michigan residents. These renewable projects are inefficient, undependable, and ultimately will be unaffordable to Michigan taxpayers. I'm asking you to vote no on these bills and any legislation that will remove local control of decisions that should remain local. Please support future opportunities that are more realistic in the efforts of our renewable energy alternatives and ultimately will allow you to uphold your oath that you took to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, can we bring forward Clint Beach, also from Fowlerville, who's in opposition of the bill?
Thank you. I'm Clint Beach, Fowlerville, Cohocton Township. I'm also on the Planning Commission there. It's an unfair and unjustified power grab that allows these appointed, not elected managers to operate above the law and against the will of the people. That was a quote from then State Senator Gretchen Whitmer in 2011. She opposed legislation to let the state take over power from local governments. The bill, which then Governor Rick Snyder signed into law, let state-appointed emergency managers take control of local governments in deep financial trouble. Whitmer opposed the bill. Ask the people of Flint in water crisis how that went. Now Governor Gretchen Whitmer and this bill is trying to do the exact same thing that she so vehemently opposed just a few short years ago by pushing the Senate and House bills to usurp local governing bodies authority to create safe, smart, well-researched ordinances designed to protect the health and well-being of local communities and sustain growth in a manageable manner. Giving power to a state-appointed board, not elected, to make decisions that will affect communities for generations with a lifetime of consequences, often against the will of the people. Let that sink in. Against the will of the people. Local governing bodies are able to make decisions that affect neighbors, communities, and themselves, that they themselves live in, have a stake in. They do so with the help and voice of the people that live there, neighbors. They do so regardless of political affiliations. If they get it wrong, the people get to exercise their right to change the local governing body, elections, recalls, special votes. The House and Senate bills proposed will take that away. Do not take away the local voice or the local vote. In Cohocton and Conway Township, there are 16 LLC solar companies vying for leases. Over 7,000 acres in 2 townships have already been leased. This will literally decimate all of our agricultural land.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
I saw you reaching for the button.
Next up, in opposition of the bill, is this Dr. Wanda Izzo? If you can come forward, thank you.
My main concern is public health, and the bill does not address it. It almost blatantly disregards it. We have a local expert named Dr. Punch, who is an MSU PhD audiologist, who wrote an article on health effects from industrial turbines, along with Rick James, who was an acoustic engineer. And we really need to look at experts. You know, we got to look at this little magnifying glass. We have to look at the details. That's what's really important. And I went to a couple testimonies ago, or representative committees before, and we were talked about, we had Apex coming into Ingham County as NIMBYs that are stupid and don't know what we're doing. We're just stubbornly opposed to green energy, which is not true. It is not true. But when an industrial company comes in and wants to put a turbine only 1,200 feet away from your farm, and I've got livestock, and I don't want flicker and the estrus cycles of horses and other livestock affected. We actually have veterinarians, engineers, and doctors, and lawyers, and realtors opposed to this because we actually looked into the experts' research on this. We're not stupid NIMBYs. Please take a look at why you're having a hard time getting all these industrial renewables in various counties. Now, I'm not opposed, and it could go in the right place and be sited in the right location at times. It can be. And if you go to Wyoming and Iowa, you'll see wind turbines amongst all lands that are not sustainable in agriculture, and for some reason the livestock are gone, even though you see fences and barns. And there's no communities living nearby. We really have to look at the detail. The detail is what we have to do. And there was no research on public health in the bill before it was pushed through. Please don't push it through that fast without really understanding what's going on. And I speak as a Democrat. I speak to you Democrats. Please understand
Thank
that
you
the
for your
local vote
comments.
does really care.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next up, in opposition of the bill, Jeremy Kirkwell? Quakel? I'm sorry. You can come forward. Thank you. Quakel. Thank you.
My name is Jeremy Quakel. I live in Montcalm County. I'm a Michigan resident, born and raised. I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the city. I moved out to the country 10 years ago to raise my family. Spent 20 years in the construction industry. In that time, I have seen some terrible salesmen, people who have gone community conning people. 2 years ago, I met my first green energy salesman. This industry is different. This isn't about renewable energy. This is about money. Once they come into your town, they rip the town apart. If you've seen in the Thumb region, where they have been the most active, and you study the last 10 years, the population's decreasing. That's the effects of it. In the last 10 years, half of the counties that have lost population, half of them have wind turbines in it. And it's not just the wind turbines themselves, it's the industry, the mentality that goes with it. I don't have pictures to hand out, but if anybody can see this is my local county commissioner, Pat Carr, giving the bird to fellow members of the community because somebody disagrees with him. This is at a township meeting. He is looking at $10 million in a wind project proposed at our community. In our community, there was a project that is offering $75 million in lease payments to those who choose to lease. Out of that, half of the money is going to elected, or would be going to elected officials. I have no problem with turbines, no problem with solar panels, but it's how it's done. The thought that they are being bribed to change the laws to allow that in is wrong. And the thought that that didn't work, that they're now pushing and lobbying the state to do the same thing is wrong. Right now, Michigan is closing down its dams. Hardy Dam at one point was the idle dam for clean energy for the country. And now they're closing it down, along with Croton, along with Rogers. We should be putting our money into preserving what we have. Right now, we have almost 2,000 wind turbines in Michigan. They average at 1 megawatt. The current rate for a wind turbine is 6 megawatts. If we took this time and effort and replaced all of the turbines we currently have, that'd be additional 10 megawatts. That's an additional 5 megawatts per turbine. That's 10 gigawatts altogether. There's better ways of doing this.
Thank you for your
All right, thank you.
testimony. I appreciate it. Next up, in opposition of the bill, Madeline Fata and Dina Bosworth from the Michigan Association of Counties. Two more. That's it. 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to the chair and members of the committee for allowing us to testify today. My name is Madeline Fata with the Michigan Association of Counties.
Dina Bosworth, Michigan Association of Counties.
We oppose the bills before you today primarily because zoning is a vested interest of local government and should remain as such. MAC is adamantly opposed to the preemption of all local policies, practices, regulations, rules, and other ordinances relating to renewable energy facilities. Some of you may think of zoning as a function of townships or cities, but we have 20 counties in Michigan that are currently zoning countywide for renewable energy facilities. Those counties have dedicated time and resources and have collaborated with their constituents and other local leaders to develop and implement their plans. It's our intent today to protect the thoughtful work of our members. We cannot continue to revisit one-size-fits-all methods. Each community has different preferences for setbacks, berms, trees, panel heights, pollinators, decibel levels, safety plans, etc., that cannot be satisfied by uniform standards. In the existing county ordinances, some are more, some are less restrictive than what is proposed in this legislation, but each is tailored to the wants and needs of that specific community. We recognize that the governor has set forth clean energy goals and that implementing them is a priority for this legislature, but the Public Service Commission is not in the business of land use or zoning. They are an appointed board whose primary function is rate making. Last week, we heard the argument that other energy facilities are regulated by the PSC, but I want to reiterate that all energy generation facilities currently adhere to local zoning. The PSC is only zoning for pipelines at the moment. We also heard last week that this model works in other states, but I think the turnout last week, the turnout today, the calls and emails you guys have probably received is evidence that the people of Michigan value local control. It's not our goal to stand in the way of solar build-out, but local voices cannot be sacrificed at the expense of rapid industry growth. In an attempt to protect the work of our members, keep citing local, and allow residents to continue to share their input, MAC proposed amendments to enable all counties to zone for renewable energy facilities on behalf of their other locals. That's something we'd be happy to discuss with any of you. Dina, what did I miss?
Comments, unless they have questions.
We'll have to wrap it up, but thank you
Okay.
so much for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next up, in opposition of the bill, Lisa Cook Gordon.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank the chair as well as all the members of this committee. I am Lisa Cook Gordon. I live in the Thumb area, an area that you've heard a lot about last week and this week. And I am here for a couple different reasons. I am an advocate for children and families, and especially children with special health care needs and disabilities. And last week when I heard a question asked about the bill, about what is 50 decibels, and I had to hear, I don't know, I'll get back with you on that. 50 decibels is a degree of noise that they let out. And I don't know how many of you know that children with disabilities, especially autism and epilepsy, will be affected by that. And where I live, they're proposing 26 wind turbines, one across the street from my house, which my next door neighbor has Down syndrome. The neighbor that's going to be facing this has epilepsy and autism. And if you look across the state at this and the number of children that have disabilities and special health care needs, you will see a lot will be impacted, especially I'm also an advocate for maternal child health, so especially on pregnant women. And I haven't heard anything about health except for the dear doc back here that just talked about public health. We really need you to look at this because 26 are going in mine, 19 is going in a neighboring township, and referendums have been passed. 375 to 50 in mine, no. But yet, this is allowing developers to come to a state commission and override the will of the people. When I left here last week, I had to come back in and talk to people. I had 30 patriots sitting on my shoulder that fought in the American Revolution. And the thing is they fought for the will of the people and the say of the people. And you're not getting that here, especially for the most vulnerable who are children, especially children with disabilities. So I urge you to please don't push this through. Think about the children, the future of our state, because they are at risk. And when I hear the argument that urban communities have been floating that risk for a long time, that somebody else needs to, I have to question, where are we coming from with that? We need to look at alternatives of using land that is not good for farming. Because if you're using farming land, you're taking away the ability to produce the crops that give us food. And what's happened in my township, you have farmers that live 20 miles away signing off on land. It's not even where they live. So I thank you for hearing me today.
I appreciate it.
And I hope that you consider what I've said.
Thank you so much. Next up in opposition of the bill, Kevin Martis from Our Home, Our Voice. And I will say, Mr. Martis, you do have 2 minutes. So I know you have a presentation, but please keep it to 2 minutes.
Been here many times before under similar terms. Good morning. I'll be very brief. You do have an extensive presentation from me. I believe it responds to many of the same issues that you've heard discussed last week and again this week. I will quickly start out by saying I know a number of you have been told that I'm AstroTurf and funded by the fossil fuel industry. None of those things are true, and I'm sorry that we have to always begin with that. I'm a Lenawee County Commissioner and Zoning Administrator in Deerfield Township in Lenawee County. I'm just going to give you a couple points for those of you who support this bill that preempts local zoning. I will say that those of us who've been involved in the zoning process for the last 15 years or so, like I have, are amazed at the idea that this body could consider adopting what amounts to a statewide zoning ordinance with only 2 hearings in 7 days' time. We typically produce a zoning ordinance for gas stations or other facilities, takes 1 to 2 years with extensive stakeholder and community input and deliberation. Here you're being handed information and asked to vote on it in a 7-day window that will change zoning for the entire state. There's a couple points I want to show you that you've missed with respect, and again, we oppose these bills. If you go down this path, let's take a look at what the wind zoning section alone is lacking. There's no mention of protecting avian species in this bill, yet the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and many other entities recommend a 5-mile setback for wind turbines from Great Lakes shorelines to protect birds and migratory raptors, etc. It's silent on that. Wind turbines, according to Scientific American, are the #1 cause of bat death in the United States. There's a simple solution for that. You raise the cut-in speed for wind turbines to 6.5 meters per second, 90% reduction in kill rate. This bill is silent on that. Dark sky and light pollution. FAA approved radar detection for airplanes can allow the flashing red lights to be off until a plane approaches, protecting our dark sky, protecting our environment until there's a need for the airplanes to own protection. This bill is silent on that kind of protection.
Thank you so very much for your presentation. All right, we will now have several amendments. First, we'll start with House Bill 5120 to take up, and then we will vote on it. I will address now Representative Andrews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my amendment to the bill here is made to recognize that this does require personal property rights to be recognized, that this is not a case of the state coming in and taking land, nor is it a case of anybody coming in and taking land, that agreements have to be made between property owners and companies before any of these projects can proceed. So it's a very brief amendment, so I'm just going to read the sentence. Commission approval of a certificate does not confer the power of eminent domain and is not a determination of a public conveyance and necessity for the purpose of the power of eminent domain. So very clearly stating that eminent domain cannot and will not be used to make these projects happen. There has to be a willing entry into contract.
Are there any questions from the committee? No questions? All right, so Representative Andrews moves to adopt their amendment to House Bill 5120. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
Yes.
Representatives Andrews?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Witsit?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Churches?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Bagol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, or Madam Chair, the amendment is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Hill to speak to her amendment on House Bill 5120.
Season. Oh, thank you. Welcome to the fall allergy season, which unfortunately has been extended due to climate change. We have not yet had a frost in the Upper Peninsula where I live, in the part where I live. I'm going to get to suffer through this for at least another couple of weeks. So I apologize. Thank you for the amplification. I have two amendments, Chair. Does it matter which one I do first?
No, you may just proceed.
Thank you. So first, I want to, I asked a question last week of the Public Service Commission Chair. What is the definition of public benefit? Because as we have heard today, there's a lot of concern that what is being proposed will not, in fact, benefit communities. I've worked with different stakeholders, and we have written a pretty extensive definition. I propose that we amend page 12, line 10, after construction, by inserting, for the purpose of this subdivision, public benefits include, but are not limited to, expected tax revenue paid by the energy facility to local taxing districts, payments to owners of participating property, community benefits agreements, local job creation, and any contributions to meeting identified energy capacity, reliability, or resource adequacy needs of this state. In determining any contributions to meeting identified energy capacity, reliability, or resource adequacy needs of this state, the Commission may consider approved integrated resource plans under Section 60 of 1939 PA MCL 460-6T. Renewable energy plans, annual electric provider capacity demonstrations under 6W of 1939 PA MCL 460.6W, or other proceedings before the Commission at the applicable regional transmission organization or before the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission as determined relevant by the Commission. In enumerating these benefits, There are financial contributions. There are the intangible contributions of community benefit agreements that will be determined by the community members. And there is the electric generation. Therefore, I humbly submit that this amendment be considered by this body. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. All right. Representative Hill moves to adopt their amendment. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
Yes.
Representatives Andrews?
Yes.
Holman?
Yes.
Witsit?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Churches?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Wenzel?
No.
Outman?
No.
Aragona?
No.
Bagol?
No.
Green?
No.
Preston?
No.
Schmaltz?
No.
Madam Chair, you have 10 yeas, 7 nays, 0 passes. The amendment is adopted.
Thank you. Next up, we have Representative Aragona to speak. Correction, we will do a second vote on the second amendment. Do you want to discuss?
Yes, thank you. So my second amendment builds on the idea of public benefits. And in particular, I served on the Citizen Utility Board of Michigan, which is a nonprofit organization that represents ratepayers at the Public Service Commission and fights to reduce our rates and fights against the utilities that are seeking to purely make a profit off of the hard work of ratepayers. Knowing that there is a role inside the Public Service Commission in what's called a contested case, where people, literally everyday people, can fight inside the Michigan Public Service Commission and say these rates are too high, your reliability is terrible, and you need to do better. I am proposing an amendment today that will amend page 2, line 27, after section, by striking out 2264 and inserting 2265. There are 2 other pieces. 2, amend page 10, line 14, after 1 by inserting, when the commission determines under section 225 that an application is complete, the application from the developer to the Public Service Commission, the applicant, the developer, shall make a one-time grant to each affected local unit for an amount determined by the commission, but not more than $75,000 per affected local unit, and not more than $150,000 in total. Each affected local unit shall deposit the grant in a local intervenor compensation fund to be used to cover costs associated with participation in the contested case proceeding on the application for a certificate and renumbering the subsequent sections. 3, amend page 12, line 28 by striking out 6G and inserting 7F, which is just clarifying. Fundamentally, what this amendment will do is make sure that locals do not have to pay to participate in the process at the Public Service Commission, and that in fact, the developers will have a pay into a fund up to $75,000, and 2 units can come together and work together to the tune of $150,000 to fight against what they don't want in the system. I want to also remind folks that there is, the way that the law is currently written, the developer and the local unit of government can work together from the beginning. There's nothing in this proposal in the document anywhere that says you have to go to the Public Service Commission. The developer and the local unit of government can work together from the beginning. And in fact, I think most people would prefer to have that happen. But what I am proposing with this amendment is that if your local government has spoken so eloquently last week and this week. If you wish to fight back, you have up to $150,000 to do so. And I can tell you that from experience with the Citizen Utility Board of Michigan, that this is an adequate amount of money to make those determinations in the 12 months that the Public Service Commission has to make that determination. So we have heard that your concerns about how we participate in this process, and the developers are putting up the funds for you to do so.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, Representative Hill moves to adopt their amendment. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
Yes.
Representatives Andrews?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Witsit?
Yes.
Neely?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Churches?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Wenzel?
No.
Outman?
No.
Aragona?
No.
Bagol?
Pass.
Green?
Pass.
Preston?
No.
Schmaltz?
Pass.
Madam Chair, the amendment is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Aragona to speak to their amendment to House Bill 5120.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an amendment. Obviously, we're kind of rushing through this a bit. You know, we only got were notified that these bills were coming up about an hour and a half ago, unfortunately. But I did put together something at least for the local units of government, because we're kind of, you know, these bills are kicking them in the teeth a little bit. So this will allow for anyone who's building these type of solar or wind facilities to at least get some of the money, depending on the size of the project, back to the local units of government to use for fire, police, and other community needs, because this will be pretty costly to local government. So I humbly offer up my amendment. Thank you.
Are there any questions? No questions? Okay. Representative Aragona moves to adopt their amendment. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
Pass.
Coleman?
Pass.
Witsit?
Pass.
Neely?
Pass.
Burns?
Pass.
Churches?
No.
Hill?
Pass.
McDonald?
Pass.
McFall?
Pass.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Bagol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. Next, we will call Representative Wenzel to explain the amendment to 5120.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My amendment is very simple. It would preserve the voice of our local communities. The MPSC would still be able to receive and evaluate applications, but the appropriate board responsible for making decisions at the local level would have the final say and be able to stand up for the will of the people. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the committee? Okay. Representative Wenzel moves to adopt their amendment. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
Pass.
Witsit?
Pass.
Neely?
Pass.
Burns?
Pass.
Churches?
No.
Hill?
Pass.
McDonald?
No.
McFall?
Pass.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Bagol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 3 nays, 6 passes. The amendment does not pass.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Outman to explain their amendment to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, you all have the amendment in front of you. It deals with project labor agreements. My amendment would allow all qualified workers to construct these projects and help ensure that local labor is available. If we're going to force these projects on locals in the name of meeting some arbitrary rapid approaching goal, we should not hamstring our workforce by requiring it to only operate at 20% capacity. My second amendment deals with prevailing wage, and it would make these projects more cost effective. We are forcing these on local communities at artificially inflated prices, which are then passed on to residents in the form of rate increases.
Are there any questions from the committee? All right. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
No.
Witsit?
No.
Neely?
No.
Burns?
No.
Churches?
No.
Hill?
No.
McDonald?
No.
McFall?
No.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Begol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 10 yeas. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Representative Outman. Yeah, you already spoke about it? Okay. All right. All right. Are there any questions on the second amendment that Representative Outman made? No? All right. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
No.
Witsit?
No.
Neely?
No.
Burns?
No.
Churches?
No.
Hill?
No.
McDonald?
No.
McFall?
No.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Begol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 10 nays. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Preston to explain your amendment to the bill as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What a day. My amendment requires the applicant to come to an agreement on the size and placement of a project that satisfies both the MPSC and, most importantly, the local community where the project will be located.
Any questions from the committee? Okay. You have a question? I'm sorry, Representative Hill.
Is there any funding attached to the amendment?
No, it allowed the process to proceed like it currently is.
Okay. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
No.
Witsit?
No.
Neely?
No.
Burns?
No.
Churches?
No.
Hill?
No.
McDonald?
No.
McFall?
No.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Begol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 10 nays. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. I'm the chair, go to ease. Thank you. Now we will vote on House Bill 5120 as amended. I need a motion to report House Bill 5120 as amended as substitute. Representative Neely makes that motion. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Chair Scott?
Yes.
Representatives Andrews?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Witsit?
Half.
Neely?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Churches?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Wenzel?
No.
Outman?
No.
Aragona?
No.
Begol?
No.
Green?
No.
Preston?
No.
Schmaltz?
No.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 7 nays, 1 pass. House Bill 5120 is reported with recommendation as amended as substituted.
Thank you. In preparing the substitute, the Bureau may make changes as to form and numbering of sections and other editorial changes. So now we'll move on and take up the vote of House Bill 5121. Okay. All right. I need a motion to report out House Bill 5122. Representative Churches makes that motion. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
5121.
Excuse me, 5121. All right. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
Yes.
Representatives Andrews?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Witsit? Neely?
Yes.
Burns?
Yes.
Churches?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
McFall?
Yes.
Wenzel?
No.
Outman?
No.
Aragona?
No.
Bagol?
No.
Green?
No.
Preston?
No.
Schmaltz?
No.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 7 nays, 1 pass. House Bill 5121 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. All right. We will now vote on House Bill 50. Thank you. All right. We do have some substitutes. I'm going to call on amendments. Excuse me. We will now call on Representative Wenzel.
Madam Chair, all of our amendments are the same as the first bill, so we don't need to speak on any of them. Thank you.
All right. Would that be for Representative Outman as well? Okay. Okay. All right. Wenzel makes a motion to report out on House Bill 5122. Oh, to amend, excuse me. To amend. Okay. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
No.
Witsit?
No.
Neely?
No.
Burns? No. Churches?
No.
Hill?
No.
McDonald?
No.
McFall?
No.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Bagol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz? Yes. Madam Chair, the amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. We'll go at ease. One moment. Thank you. Rep. Outman moves his amendment. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
No.
Witsit?
No.
Neely?
No.
Burns?
No.
Churches?
No.
Hill?
No.
McDonald?
No.
McFall?
No.
Wenzel?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Aragona?
Yes.
Bagol?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Schmaltz? Yes. Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 10 nays. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. All right. One moment. Okay, Representative Outman offered another amendment to House Bill 5122. I need a motion to make that, for Representative Outman to make that motion, the amendment. Thank you. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Chair Scott?
No.
Representatives Andrews?
No.
Coleman?
No.
Witsit?
No.
Neely?
No.
Burns,
No.
Churches,
No.
Hill,
No.
McDonald,
No.
McFall,
No.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Outman,
Yes.
Aragona,
Yes.
Begol,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 10 nays. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. Representative Preston offered the amendment to House Bill 5122. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott,
No.
Representatives Andrews,
No.
Coleman,
No.
Witsit,
No.
Neely,
No.
Burns, Churches,
No.
Hill,
No.
McDonald,
No.
McFall,
No.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Outman,
Yes.
Aragona,
Yes.
Begol,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas and 10 nays. The amendment is not adopted.
Thank you. Chair will go at ease. We now need a vote on House Bill 5122. I need a motion to report out on 5122. Representative McFall makes that motion. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Chair Scott,
Yes.
Representatives Andrews,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Witsit,
Pass.
Neely,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Churches,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Wenzel,
No.
Outman,
No.
Aragona,
No.
Begol,
No.
Green,
No.
Preston,
No.
Schmaltz.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 7 nays, 1 pass. House Bill 5122 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. All right. Okay. One moment, Chair will go at ease. All right, finally, we'll take on vote on House Bill 5123. I need a motion to report out House Bill 5123, and Representative McDonald makes that motion. Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Chair Scott,
Yes.
Representatives Andrews,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Witsit,
Pass.
Neely,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Churches,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Wenzel,
No.
Outman,
No.
Aragona,
No.
Begol,
No.
Green,
No.
Preston,
No.
Schmaltz.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 7 nays, 1 pass. House Bill 5123 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you. All right. Seeing we have no absent members today and there will be no further business before the committee is adjourned. Thank you.